I'm Matt Nestor, the editor-in-chief at payments.com. Thanks for joining us here today. We are taking a look at the changes in the global workforce, in particular, how you pay this dispersed group of increasingly international workers. A lot has changed since the pandemic, and we put together an esteemed panelist of experts to walk us through the changes, sort of how they're playing out, what are the pinch points, and where they're working. So I'll just introduce our guests first before we really get into it. Frederick Crosby, CRO at NEOM. Thank you for coming on. Michael Brooks is the CEO of GoLance. Dan Westgarth, he's the COO at Deal. And Essen Balut, she is the co-founder at Remote, which is fun to say with a little bit of challenge. But why don't we start with you, Frederick, and just maybe you can just set the stage in terms of how things have changed in 2022 after that crazy uptick in remote hiring and international hiring that we saw in 2020 and 2021.
Yeah, right now it's full steam ahead. The huge momentum changes that happened as we came to a realization in the workforce that we didn't need everybody in the office. That's great for a lot of people domestically. They have a different lifestyle, but it also opened eyes to the managers in the world that I could find the best talent at the best price with the best skill set anywhere in the world. All of these tools, such as what we're doing with this today, really have changed things. And the momentum of this shift is incredible. Through the survey that we've done together, you saw that we had a change of people doing more international payments, international hiring jump from 8% in 2020 to over 60% in 2021. And that number continues in 2022. There's so much interest in there. So it's been a great momentum change, and we see businesses just clamoring away for it for more. And you have a great panel here that's right in the middle of helping a lot of them.
Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit. Maybe we'll go to our other panelists and just have them kind of chime in. Maybe Michael, Dan, and then Essen. Give us your thoughts in terms of what you're seeing. In particular, I think we can all probably agree that this is the continuation of a trend. I don't know if it's as hot, cold, not quite, a little bit warmer, a little bit cooler, as we saw last year. But Michael, what are you seeing out there that's of note to you right now?
So this trend I've been seeing go since I took my first company remote after the financial crisis of 2008, which was a necessity because it was the only way I could keep that company. It was a subscription billing platform, an e-commerce platform, and the challenges that I had back then, a lot of them have been solved now. But it definitely 2020 went into hyperdrive, where you see everyone going, okay, I guess we got to go remote. I guess this is what we got to do. I was like, yeah, I dealt with this already. Welcome, welcome to the club. But it's people. I would say the greatest trend is that people adopted the concept of remote work, and especially companies that deal with sensitive issues like PCI compliance and whatnot. They've always believed they have to have a certain type of tight environment, but there is a way to technically accomplish that remotely. So it was immediate. Okay, we've got to do something. We can't have people come in, and then now it's oh wait, things are better. This is a better way of life. Wait a minute. Wait. This is what's available, and there's a great deal of anxiety that people have when they first let go of that corporate office culture. So I would say the greatest shift that I've seen over the last couple of years, from 2020 to okay, we have to do this, to 2022, where do we want to do this, is the cultural shift. And we're seeing a lot more companies understand how to work with remote teams, but maintain that company culture that is making them attractive to hiring top talent, and then also productive with their teams.
Right. Dan, what do you think about that? What are you seeing out there? What is your kind of observations right now for 2022 in particular, and maybe into 23?
Well, we're not seeing any slowdown, that's for sure. We're seeing more of our customers hiring more people. on a remote basis. I think what's really interesting is the type of benefits and the level of benefits that companies are providing or furnishing their team with. I think if we look back a couple of years ago and we look at some of the Bay Area companies, they invested a lot of money into real estate. They invested money and time and resource into stuff like come in early, have your breakfast on site. Maybe you can do yoga. Maybe you can use our amazing gym. Maybe if you stay late, you can attend a dinner. And this is all on the company. And this to me is a real estate based set of benefits. And now with the remote model, that poses a new problem or a new constraint. How do you deliver a really high standard of benefits to remote employees and remote workers? So we're seeing companies get really creative and coming to us with some pretty interesting requests. Can you do this? Can you send our remote workers a remote office kit out? Can you send them a desk, a chair, shelving? Can you send them cocktail kits so we can do a remote happy hour? Or can you send them some cooking course so we can do a remote lasagna preparation on a Friday night? It's becoming really interesting.
I'm sure it gets absolutely absurd, just like the benefits did. And we all know them that were emanating out of Silicon Valley in the real peak days.
Matt, can I jump into a quick point?
In one second, let me just give Essen an opening comment here. Essen, what do you think about what Dan just said and also just your observations? And I would just make a point of clarity because Frederick had mentioned the study that we did that showed 60% of companies reported hiring more international workers last year. So, that's kind of the baseline number that we're at least using at Payments as sort of the growth metric as we move into 22. Essen, please. Sorry to
well, I mean, back in 2017, when we were about to launch remote, I mean, we were, giving presentations and we were saying, well, 100-year workforce model is shifting, and there's a paradigm shift here, and remote workers are the main actors of this shift. And in companies we'll want to, we want to be more flexible and agile. And I could see some eyes actually, not really, believing us back then. I mean, the number and the numbers out there actually clearly show that companies who want to be on top of the game need to adapt to this reality of, the economy of, today's open and remote, talent market. I mean, companies are no longer, stuck to, like local talent pools. They can just go out there and, they're like so free to choose, location independent, professionals. And well, I mean, it's undeniably growing, and nothing will ever stop that. And like time and location flexibility is the reality of our day. Back in, I'm a geek. I love like research studies, and and I'm not gonna hold myself from like giving a few numbers, but I was pretty impressed actually by the Work Trend Index dated 2021. Yeah, it must be after COVID started actually, by Microsoft, that like over 40% of global employees said, like they were likely to leave their jobs in the next 12 months. This is 2021, not because like money issues, money related issues, but because they wanted to be, more flexible, they more, like flexible hours, location, personal wellness, mental health, they wanted better work-life balance,
I knew that phrase was coming. I saw it coming.
Yeah. I mean, it's not a myth anymore, so
no, it's a real thing.
Exactly. So really, I mean, times are changing. Very exciting times are coming, and I mean, I can't wait, to see the developments.
I think Michael can't wait either, because he's been holding his thought here. What's on your mind, Michael?
I just thought it was interesting. Dan mentioned that there were so many companies in San Francisco investing in real estate. And a fun fact I heard was that more billionaires were created during the tech boom in real estate in San Francisco than there was in actual technology companies, which was kind of a fun, interesting fact. I don't know if that's Still true now, but it was.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say,
We
rear
realize
view
all
versus
that.
windshield on that one. I mean, I talk to CFOs all the time about how you hold real estate on your balance sheet and justify it in a remote workforce to kind of bring us back to where we are. Frederick, if you're talking to a company and they want to, dip their toe overseas, maybe for the first time, or they want to try a new region if they already are, how do you make that easier? What steps should be kind of thought about before doing so, as it pertains? There's a million things, but as it pertains to hiring and actually having either a remote footprint or a physical footprint, as we're talked about, or some combination of the two. Hybrid's pretty popular as well.
Yeah, I mean, talking specifically of the global nature of things, this is a big shift when you think about the numbers we just said. A lot of companies are dipping their toe in this for the first time. And there's a lot of different realizations. I can speak to it coming from my company, and we're a global payment platform, and we got people all over the world. We're in 13 different countries, different pockets of expertise. I think one big thing you need to think about from an operation perspective is just, of course, the time zones and how everyone's going to be able to interact. While we might be able to hire talent everywhere, you do have to make sure that the people that are going to be close to you don't have to stay up till midnight to do everything on that. But then on the other side, if it comes into the payment aspect of things, you bring people in, you make them fit, well, they're going to want to get paid. And there's a lot of different aspects of global payments that most companies never had to face, especially those people going in there for the first time. Payments have to be reliable. If you start working for a company and you're checking and coming in when you think it's going to come in, that's a problem. Check being the figurative term here, right? Because most people have also adopted more modern forms of payment. Some people want it in the bank. Some countries like to have it in an alternative payment method, like an e-wallet that's popular in their areas. Some people like to just store their money in various different types of digital formats. Of course, you got the crypto element out there too in some countries. These are new things you have to think about to make sure that you're able to please your workers at the end of the day by providing that as well. Yeah.
Well, I was just going to bring in, Dan is going to be our worker pleasing expert here today, since he brought up all those things. But I would ask you specifically, Dan, what are there certain friction areas for workers that you're hearing now? Like, you had mentioned all the perks from the good old days of a couple of years ago, but are there friction points now that can be used as a competitive tool? I mean, I guess it's only limited by a company's ability to be creative and to come up with things and to hear problems and solve problems.
Well, that's an interesting point. We work with Frederick company, to issue a card to our employees of record. And this card can be used to access the funds that have been earned and spend them at anywhere MasterCard and Visa are accepted. And what's most interesting here is the companies that are hiring these people refer to this as a benefit. Have you ever heard of a payment method you referred to as a benefit before? Probably not.
Well, I have, because I live in a very weird universe called payments, and so we're here. We've actually reported on it, a lot about how, especially for gig workers and short-term workers, about same-day pay and fast payment is a huge perk right now, increasingly so.
It's more important than the amount.
Ooh, I don't know now. Wow, that's big, Michael.
Rate. So I was at a marketplace risk conference not too long ago, a couple years ago, and rate is not as important as speed of payment. You can get better talent at a lower rate if you pay them quick.
We're seeing a lot of.
I want to drill into those numbers a little bit, but go ahead, please.
We're seeing a lot of our remote workers take the Visa card that I mentioned because of the speed. Visa is one of the fastest payment networks in the world. The other fast payment network is, of course, blockchain and crypto. We're seeing more and more remote workers choose to be paid in cryptocurrency. And there are a number of different reasons, one of which is speed. Another reason is as a hedge against inflation, which is another topical topic right now. We're seeing remote workers in Argentina and Turkey, where they're seeing high double-digit annual inflation, want to be paid in USD stablecoin, Bitcoin, or other cryptos.
Wow. That's amazing. The ideas are coming to my mind. Like the best hedge in my mind against inflation is higher wages, and we've seen wage inflation. But Michael's saying otherwise. Essen, do you see this right now? And I'm also equally surprised that given all the trillions that has evaporated from the cryptocurrency markets and the turmoil there, that anybody would want to, at a time of belt tightening globally, subject themselves to payday risk in terms of cryptocurrency. I'm fascinated by both of those statements, actually.
Well, I mean, as Jamud, we actually stayed away from cryptocurrency for a long while, but it's again, it will be inevitable, based on the demand that we've been receiving. But I mean, there's so many payment solutions out there, and we work with Neum as well, and it's just amazing to see how fast they're developing. I mean, for us, for example, for remote, the coverage is I would say the coverage is everything. I mean, obviously, the fees are important. And I mean, Michael said the speed, oh my God, super. I mean, we the remote workers, it turns out remote workers are, super impatient as well. So speed is super important as well. But coverage, I mean, I believe there's still some way for the payment providers to develop actually in terms of coverage as well. Because I mean, we have users from, countries that, I have a hard time, pronouncing their names. But going back to crypto, it's, I mean, although we've, stayed away from it for a long time, we held ourselves. It's coming. It's coming. It's inevitably coming as well.
Yeah, true that. It's probably better time now than it was before. Maybe I'd say maybe Frederick, Michael, maybe you guys can help me here. Has it gotten to a point where you can go to a company, a client per se, and show some sort of number in terms of if you're able to do this fast payment thing, you will save X amount on top line HR costs or salary costs for work. Has it gotten that? Is there a number? Are we there yet?
So there have been reports on that. I wish I had it in front of me, but I can tell you, we do things where we'll charge for a fee, paying out extra quick, and say, hey, look, you qualify for getting rid of the review period. So we have a review and a security period where our clients can review it, and we take that risk and we go, hey, here's a sizable fee. We trust you enough to pay you quicker, but it's going to be a fee. And then if they elevate to another status level, we remove that fee and we just automatically pay them quicker. So it becomes a little bit of a status, but I don't have the exact data, but
that's okay.
To your
I
point,
think
yes.
if I could just add on, I think you might be looking at it the wrong way. I don't think people are going in there thinking, okay, how much money am I going to save? They're going after talent, and they want to make that talent happy. It's like, how satisfied can I make my employee base so I don't have to go hire somebody else and go through all that churn and all these dimensions we just talked about between speed and variety and at the end, the exchange rate and all that. Those are the great tools that now you have at your advantage. Where in the past,
if you've got 1,000 customer service agent, it does matter. It starts to add up. But I think you're also right when you're going for someone that can actually do the job and it's more of a skilled. I totally agree with you, Frederick. I think that it makes the most sense to say, hey, because of our status, we're going to be able to pay you very quickly and forego a lot of the restrictions and the concerns. I mean,
can I just ask, just clarify one point here,
Sure.
Michael, is what is very quickly? Because if we say a biweekly pay cycle is the norm, I don't know if it is globally, but I'll just throw that out there. What is very quickly? Like, do we move wholesale right to same day, once a week?
Weekly, and then a review period and security period is standard. And then we tear down from there and we see people elated, right? So first thing we do is we go, okay, we trust you enough, we get rid of the security time. And then we trust you enough, we're going to get rid of the review time. And then the next step is every day is payday. You work a day, you get paid that day. But something that like Uber does, right?
Right.
You're driving for Uber, you pick somebody up, you drop them off, and then you get paid immediately after that ride. So, I mean, instant after, it might even be too quick, but taking somebody of the highest caliber from a digital reputation standpoint,
Sure.
saying, I just believe this person, I want them to work for me. I want them at our company. I'm just going to say, hey, look, as soon as you clock an hour, you're automatically getting paid for that hour. That's a next level, and that's where payments is going. And that level of speed is highly attractive to some of the best talent in the world.
Sure. And also beyond that is payday advance, which is maybe the next level. We're seeing more and more of that right now, which is giving you a front of $500 or whatever it is, before you've even put the hours in. So, Dan, what do you think? How is this going to be used by companies to actually recruit people? Like, what do you think is going to work on the front lines to these luxurious, pampered, high demand tech workers who've been able to call their own shots? What is it going to take in terms of like payday movement to really, like, what do they want to see? They want to see the next day. They want to see the advance.
We have this on our platform. I think the key thing here, the product is contemplated as a benefit in the same way that the card was and the crypto payroll was. Second thing is, it is linked to remote working and kind of globalization. We've got employees and remote workers that are working for companies that are based in countries that offer this type of solution. You can walk down the street in America and you can find somebody to give you an advance. It's probably not going to be at a competitive rate or a economical rate, but you will find someone to do it. And what's interesting is when you have somebody working for an American company located in a country where you can't do that, well, you can do that, but the economics are even worse. That's where it becomes really powerful. You give that to somebody in country X, and they're able to get that advance, but they're not going to have to give their car as collateral. That's what's really powerful. And that's why it can be a great international global benefit.
One of the things, you're bringing me back to international. One of the challenges of doing business internationally, let alone just hiring people to do that business, is the jurisdiction by jurisdiction changes in taxation and regulation. That's a huge problem. And Frederick's nodding. So why don't you talk to me about that in terms of how that plays out into the broader conversation that we're having, tax and regulation in particular, because those are really problem areas. All our studies have indicated.
Yeah, look,
sure.
I'm sorry, was that to me or Dan?
Well, it's to both, but I thought to you, Frederick.
You got it, Fred. You got it.
Sure. Well, actually, I was going to defer back to this panel right here. That's why you go for some of these companies around there, because it's hard. I mean, one thing that Essen talked about, which is really one of the hardest things about thinking globally about getting your talent, is how different each country is. People making this jump from a domestic mindset to a global mindset. They think, okay, I'm going to have to send some kind of currency, but every country's got its different tax rules. Different countries have different regulations on just how you can send, how much you can send. It can get complex if you go it alone. And that's why the birth of some of these great companies has really come to be. So Dan, I'm going to toss it back over to you, because you're right there trying to solve this problem for people.
Yeah.
I think taxation in general is well understood. I think when we speak about cross-border employment and cross-border work engagement, it's not well understood. And the guidance and the systems and the processes that local authority and local government give don't cater for this case. And that's why there's such big problems to solve. And that's why we've got several great companies on this panel today. because it's a real problem. Working for a US company, that's a whole different type of taxation and requirement that is required to be fulfilled. It's really not simple. So I think as this becomes, and as this industry moves on and remote working becomes more quote unquote normal, countries will catch up and will provide better tools, processes for people to calculate taxes, pay taxes and whatnot. But ultimately it's in the country's interest. The country is collecting its revenue to run its infrastructure and run its kingdom. Without collecting taxes in the most efficient way, it's potentially missing out and then have to put more effort into going after people and finding them and whatnot. So I think as this evolves, the tools and the processes will get better.
Okay. Esther, I just wanted to give you an opportunity to jump in here before we change topics.
Sure. Well, I mean, tax related, questions have been one of the most frequently asked questions actually since the beginning of remote. And well, unfortunately, most of the countries, even the most developed ones, actually, the regulations lag behind when it comes to, taxation of, international hiring and flexible workforce, which we're, focused on. And it's a very challenging issue for us as well. Well, I mean, region or country-specific regulations obviously need to be addressed individually. Like Frederick said, like all the countries have different regulations. It's mind blowing. Companies actually. It's also important to point out that some companies integrate like diverse work models into the company as well. They have a part of their workforce on a payroll, part of the workforce works as, a contractor, so all these need, like different approaches, in terms of, like filing taxes and compliance. So it's really, I believe it's really important to work with, reliable, trustworthy, external partners. We've experienced this challenge ourselves as well. So it's really important to, understand your needs and find those reliable partners.
Cool. One thing, if we're all agreeing that this is just a barge moving along, unstoppable, big macro force in a changing world. I wanted to kind of drill down a little bit on like how do you know if the shoe fits, so to speak? How do you know if this is right for you? I would say the research report that we did with Neum, I think it was with Neum, one of our reports showed that something like 80% of firms that did more than $1 billion in revenue added international workers last year. So big, right? Is this a big players market only, or Michael, you talked about 1,000 gate agents or service agents, and then that's not for everybody. So who does the shoe fit for this sort of payment and recruitment process?
Yeah, so I mean, to your point, like when you go to countries like India, and we run into this all the time, which is one of the biggest business process outsource, the big enterprises definitely are the 800-pound gorilla there. They know who the best talent is, and they have invested heavily on boots on the ground recruitment. However, there's ways around that, and there's always wiggle room. And if you look at countries like Bangladesh, and this kind of goes a little bit to the last conversation, and I tried to work with the government of Panama to set up a structure like it, but it was a little bit challenging. Bangladesh takes companies like ours and some of our competitors, and any money that flows into their country, they give their freelancers 4% back. So they like to see the capital flow in. Countries like the Philippines have set up entire training system. And I think you've got like 3 million freelancers in the Philippines working in online platforms. So there's an abundance of talent. It's anybody's game. It's really how set up is your company to acquire this type of remote talent and manage and maintain a remote work culture. That's what I see. So yeah, the big guys, they've got a leg up. They've got a leg up with everything. They always have a leg up.
Yeah,
But
more money, more everything.
the SMBs can get in there and they can find their little angles and they can scoop up some really high quality, talented people, or they can just scoop up the people that they need that to run their business. Like customer service agent, they don't need to be, they don't need to be high level coders, but they still need to have an element of capability. I would say that the companies that we find, the SMBs, typically the mid-size companies, not really the 2 or 3 freelancers that are trying to hire, but the mid-size companies, they set up their own training and they spend a lot of time and invest a lot of time training their people. So they'll take good people, they test all the time, not just skills, cognitive testing, creative testing. You'd be surprised. You can ask for all different types of testing. And I mean, the whole Myers-Briggs testing, everything, and put people through a system and a funnel. And that's how I see the SMBs really competing with the enterprises. So it's still anybody's game.
Cool. I just want to, I don't want to get too long in the tooth here today, but maybe Dan, S, and Frederick, you can kind of add on to that as we sort of give you each your kind of closing thoughts in terms of where this is headed, who it works for, and how it's going to play out. Dan?
I think it works for everyone. That's the vision. Unstoppable barge. I love that analogy. I think regulation will catch up. We've alluded to that a little bit. Not only when it comes to taxation, but when it comes to labor regulation as well. Employment today is really only happening domestically, and cross-border employment is marrying 2 domestic systems together. Will there be an international infrastructure that allows for cross-border employment in the domestic sense, but between 2 countries? That's going to be really interesting. And then the surrounding or ancillary adjacent things, such as benefits, payments, equipment delivery, real estate, how this all evolved is also going to be really interesting.
I imagine the global law firms are salivating at the thought of merging, that kind of thing. Essen, your kind of crystal ball view of where this global hiring and payment trend is headed?
I mean, it's like I said, it's very exciting times. I mean, especially for work for companies like Deal and Remote. I mean, hiring internationally, paves the way for companies to reach the spot on, independent talents, like wherever they are, so no more, barriers left, for businesses and for people as well. I mean, come on, like Great Resignation, I mean, a lot of people didn't see it coming, probably, but people it was inevitable for us, and both businesses and employees have been actually looking for alternative work arrangements. So the paradigm shift was was coming. So I don't know, companies like us are like super excited to be able to pave new grounds for both organizations and talents as those work arrangements are changing, and we're super excited to have partners like Neum and other partners that support us to support those organizations and independent talents to work together and securely and in compliance. I mean, we talked about tax a lot. Compliance is another issue. For companies who want to work with international talents. So very exciting days are coming, and we're so excited to part of this transformation.
Yeah. Well, Frederick, you have the unenviable task of trying to braid it all together in a 20-second summation. Hopefully you thought, had to go at law school at one point in your life, but
You can
good
barely
luck.
say my team in 20 seconds, but let me go with the who and the what. I just want to echo what Michael said. This is across all levels of companies. I mean, our company, we're 1,000 people all over the world. We started with 2 guys on different ends of the world. The 2 co-founders came from Singapore and London. That's just the nature of how things are done. In Silicon Valley, you see this all the time.
Yeah.
I worked with a lot of SMBs who are small 5-person organizations that have people all over the world. This is just across the board the way things work nowadays. Now on the what, we've talked a lot about a lot of different great things about what's going on with payments, about the variety of ways you get funds in your bank or in cash or on card and crypto. This ecosystem is growing because not only can you get your money in different ways, the variety of services that are going there, including early payment, but other investments, things you can put the money into right away, is going to create businesses that are allowing and give benefits through different means of managing that money directly to this remote workforce. The wonderful things are going to come from the merge, this stew of financial services all being digitally interconnected is leading to a fantastic future.
How can we do better than that? A fantastic future. We love the future here and it looks fantastic despite the current headwinds that we're all scratching our head about. So thank you so much. Frederick Crosby from Neom. Thank you. Michael Brooks from Golan. It's great to have you on. Essen Balut from Remove. Love to say that. I couldn't say it enough. And Dan Westgarth from Deal. Thank you all so much. Appreciate it. Look forward to getting together again and doing an update, seeing whose forecasts are the most accurate.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
Everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.